right, so genetics. And again, in order to be successful in this unit, you have to be able to speak the language of genetics. So let's go over it. What is a gene? You already did the vocab.
A gene is something that makes up like the DNA.
Good. It's on DNA and it is inherited. Allele.
It's not like what makes up the gene.
Good. It's a form of the gene. I'm going to repeat things. So alleles are always going to be expressed as letters, and a capital letter will express a dominant allele, and a lowercase letter will express a recessive allele. And even though you haven't heard that term yet, it'll start to make sense when you put it all together. That's why the vocabulary is so critical, because they all go together. What is a trait?
Something you get from your parents.
You get it from your parents.
Characteristic.
Good. It's a characteristic that you express. Whoops. Now, give me examples.
Height.
Height. Good. Color. What else? Color. All colors.
Hair.
Hair what? Color. We got color. What else can hair be? What do you mean by hair type?
Whether it's wavy or
Good. Texture. Texture is a trait. And so is your shape. Okay?
Bread is two homogeneous cells.
it's like
The result.
And that would be 2 capital letters or 2 lowercase
Two
letters.
lowercase.
Either or.
Oh, yeah, right.
Capital T, capital T. Yes,
Two alleles are different.
the alleles are different. So what's my letter combination?
uppercase T, lowercase t.
Good. It's gonna be uppercase and lowercase. Right. So a little info on human genetics. So traits are determined by what? Genes. And there's a little picture for you. A gene is located on a DNA or a chromosome, which is in DNA. And you see a zoomed in picture. That little band is actually a gene. There's so many genes. So when we study genetics, don't try to think of genetics of you, because your genetics are so complex. You need to think of genetics of organisms that have few amounts of chromosomes or few genes, because your genetics is very complex. Yes. So how many pairs of chromosomes do humans have? 23. So total chromosomes? 46. Good. 46 chromosomes for humans. In bio, when you study genetics in college, you study organisms that have 4 pairs. You don't study organisms with 23 pairs. That's very complex. Autosomal chromosomes are going to be all the pairs numbered in this karyotype, which is a sample of your chromosomes 1 through 22. Your sex chromosome is pair number 23. If you see an XX, what are you?
A woman.
A woman. An XY? Male. So genotype, what are we referencing if we use that word?
I think it's what shows.
Not what shows, what's inside. It's actually
The phenotype.
what makes up your phenotype is your genotype. Whenever you see the word genotype, think of the letters, okay? Think of the alleles. Because that's the way we express genotype, with letters, which are forms of an allele. Phenotype is what you look like, your physical appearance. Add the word what you look like. It's what is visible. What is dominant? The trait that always shows. Good. It actually masks the recessive trait. It's always expressed with a capital letter. What about recessive? Good. You actually need 2 for it to be visible. It's always masked by the dominant, and it's always expressed with a lowercase letter. Now, how do we pick the letters? You're always going to choose a letter of the dominant trait to be the letter choice. And the dominant trait will be the capital letter, and the recessive trait will be the lowercase letter. kind of sad I missed it. I see all the nuns and there was for some reason. Who is the who's the father of genetics? Mendel. Who I consider somewhat of a genius because to actually visually think of these things that he thought. I'm going to read it to you because I know you can't see it again. He developed what? Anybody know? Good. He developed a hypothesis that explains heredity or inheritance. Hypothesis of inheritance. And he said all parents pass on factors. He didn't know what those factors were. What are they actually?
Traits.
Genes, which express traits. So the word is genes, and it's in parentheses. Inheritance.
What is it?
He worked with pea plants. I'm going to repeat the sentences. He's the father of genetics. He developed the hypothesis of inheritance. Parents pass on factors which are called genes, and they're responsible for the traits. And he worked with pea plants. Why? Why did he choose pea plants?
They have different variations, like a bunch of variations.
But we all do. So
Yeah.
what was good about the pea plant? What? Easy to grow is one. What else? That's the first one. Yes, they produce many offspring. Yeah, no.
They have very simple traits.
Simple traits. Aren't you glad you could? Okay, so he cross-fertilized. That cross, he used homozygous parents, which are also called purebred. That's why there's a slash there. Purebred / homozygous means the same thing. He did this to get an offspring called hybrid. This F1 generation is also called hybrid. So basically he took a purple flower, which is homozygous, so that means the allele combinations are capital P, with a homozygous white flower, which the combination would be little p, and then his offspring, which we call the F1 generation or a hybrid, was all heterozygous for the trait capital P, little p.